Hi, Prema.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no worries. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
This is awesome. I really, really appreciate it. We had such a fun time talking to your husband.
Oh, nice. I'm glad you caught up with him. He's an interesting cat. He's definitely a good time to talk to.
Yeah, he's awesome. So super excited to talk with you as well. So our podcast is all about your journey in the music industry and how you got to where you are now.
Awesome.
Cool. Did you also grow up in Staten Island area?
I refer to myself. Yes and no. I refer to myself as a bridge and tunnel baby. My family's originally from Staten Island, and then my parents moved to Jersey and had me, and then split up. So my mom lived in Jersey, my dad lived in Staten Island, my father moved back here. So growing up, I kind of did like the back and forth a lot.
Okay, and, between Staten Island and Jersey.
Yes. So I was like, so I played sports in both areas. I went to school in both areas. So it's like I got an equal half of both worlds. And then I actually moved out at a young age and like moved into the city and hopped around the city. So like I lived in like every borough in New York.
Oh, so wow.
That's why I call, not for like long periods of time, but like there are periods like where I live, like, a year in the Bronx, like 3 months in Queens, 3 years in Brooklyn. I always wind up back on Staten Island somehow, some way. So, yeah, that's why I refer to myself as a bridge and tunnel baby. So.
I like that. That's cool. Wow. So you've really had a chance to experience pretty much all New York has to offer in the surrounding area, huh?
Yeah, I was pretty blessed, I wouldn't say it was easy.
Sure.
Definitely wasn't easy, but like, I definitely take it as a blessing because, it had a lot to do with like influencing me and inspiring me and like just being around like so much diversity, like is what like, helped me cultivate like me as an artist and still as I'm growing. So yeah, I'm definitely blessed. Staten Island's pretty sheltered. Not to like no downs about Staten Island or whatever, although I would like to eventually bloom out the island mushroom. But yeah, for whatever reason, I guess it's because we don't have like a train line to go into the city. So like we really like keep to ourselves here. Like people don't leave the island much. Yeah, like they do, but like you go like right over the bridge into Brooklyn or like right over the bridge into Jersey, and like that's like the extent of it. I mean, like the island's only 14 miles long, and you'll hear like people from the other side of the island be like, "Oh, I'm not driving over there." Like it's far. Like no, I'm not going to the South Shore. I'm not going to the North Shore, and it's like a 5-6 mile drive or something. And it's like, all right. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm personally, I've been in upstate New York, but never like New York City. I know. It's not the time to come there.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing because it's something on the bucket list. And now that like you've experienced like country New York, now like you know what you want out of the city, so you're not just coming here like blindly like, oh, let me party and get the best of New York,
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know the area very well. I mean, I didn't know that Staten Island is kind of itself. I figured there had to be some sort of train or subway or something that took you there, but
no, they keep it this way, like politically. I don't want to get into politics and stuff, but like they're very reserved and kind of like conservative, so to speak. So like it's like it's more suburban. So like real New Yorkers or other New Yorkers will call us Jersey.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But like Staten Islanders like take pride in it, which I see. They live here, they breed here, they work hard here. And, they do their best to like, cultivate it kind of the way they want. But it needs more diversity. It definitely does. Like the North Shore and the places by the ferry are like coming up and stuff. And people are starting to like branch out. They're trying to change it. They had that whole thing with the Ferris wheel and stuff.
Gentrify it or what do they call it?
Yeah. But, like it's crazy weird because you can go from like, from that area, like to where we live, and it's like completely like suburban. Like we have 24-hour stores and stuff, but even the buses aren't like all day, all
Running all
around the
night.
clock. Like they run,
Okay.
they stop at like 2, you know, you can find a bus line that will run like 24 hours, but you know, it's definitely not like the city.
Sure. Wow. Well, how did you get into music?
I've always been into music. I guess I would say like the short answer is like, I told you like my upbringing, like my parents split up. So they both worked a lot. I'm the youngest sibling of 3 others. So there's 4 of us. So both of my parents were hard workers, so they weren't home much. And me being the youngest, like I would be kind of like, you know, kind of not like left on my own. They always took care of me and stuff. But
Sure.
like, you know, I just spent a lot of time like in my adolescence, like trying to find things to do, you know, besides like my homework and stuff like that. So
Right.
I think that's where my like creative intuition kicked in and stuff, you know, because I started to get like, you know, I got sick of like games and stuff. And my mom was like real old school. She wasn't like, we couldn't play video games. Like eventually, you know,
Sure.
she would break down and stuff. But like, it wasn't like she left us home with like the video games or whatever. Like, you know, like she would like take the plug from the TV or whatever, you know, like stuff like that. So I'd be like, all right, what do I do? So I would go like climb trees. And then as I got older, I started like reading books and, you know, like listening to music and writing poetry and stuff like that. So I think it was just like, I've been like introverted kind of from the start.
Oh,
so,
sure.
you know, that's when you really like, you go inward and you're like, okay, what is life about? So that started at a young age for me.
That's cool. And what were you just writing You said poetry. Were you
Yeah,
writing
I wrote a
lyrics
lot.
and stuff?
I
Okay.
wrote a lot when I was a child. Like ever since I can remember, like I always just loved to write stuff down. And like I think, you know, the first thing I remember writing was a song. I was like, oh, let me try and write a song. Wow. And like it was one of me and my friends at the time, and we sat there. We wrote a song about like electricity connecting between you and me or something. I can barely remember the lyrics, but that was probably the first like, you know, memorable time I jotted something down on paper. And then my sister, who's older than me, is a heavy writer, like very, very, very intellectual, amazing, like short story writer and poet and everything. So she used to journal a lot and like leave it around the house and stuff. And, you know, I would read these things and not understand them and then eventually like interpret them into my own. So it really started off with like writing, you know, and then like slowly but surely I just got like creatively like absorbed in like everything. Like everything was so cool, you know. And then when I got into my teens and I really got heavy involved in hip hop, like I would just turn the music on and always have music on. So like, you know, then the writing kind of, I began rapping and I didn't even know it, you know, because I was like writing with the music on. So I'm like writing poetry with the music, you know, so like, so that's kind of, you know, the drift of it.
Right. Well, then how did you start? Like, when did you start getting beats and putting lyrics to your own songs and performing?
I was a late bloomer. It actually started out, my brothers would like give me their CD collection. So they were heavy hip hop heads. And, you know, of course, inherently, when you have older siblings, you wind up kind of falling into sort of, you know, everything they fall into somewhat to a certain degree. Yeah. So I got all the hand-me-downs and stuff like that from them. And they were big into music and like they had turntables and all of that. So like at first it became like a kind of like a student thing. I was like so intellectually like mesmerized with like, you know, lyrics at such a young age. It really just made me think a lot about, you know, I was listening to like Nas Illmatic and Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt when I was like, you know, 11 years old, which doesn't seem that young now in our day, you know, with the internet and stuff. But like back then it was like, you know, my friends were listening to like Backstreet Boys and, you know, like stuff like that. So the lyrics really hit me hard. And then I started going to shows a lot. And I just started like experimenting with all different kinds of music. I got into like club music and EDM, and I became like fascinated with the feeling that I got with good music, you know, like with like the dance scene and like the aura around it, like how joyful and how therapeutic it was. Like when you go to a show and everyone feels it, and like there's just like a groove. So that hooked me in. And I was still in my writing and everything. And then I fell a little bit into like the graph scene, graffiti writing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you know, I'm just like exploring my creative realms a lot. And I was sort of a late bloomer because I didn't get into like the professional part of hip hopistry, I guess, if I'll coin that, until my like early 20s. So you know, I was over here definitely on the map and en route to everything, and writing and like probably writing many more raps than I even knew. But like until I sat down and I was like, wow, I want to hit the studio and I want to try, you know, rapping and stuff like that, was like my early 20s. And, you know, being through like the club scene and having older brothers, and they had turntables. I had already experimented with like all of the elements, you know, and meanwhile, I'm just here as a student, you know, I was never like, you know, I wasn't, like, I didn't come out the womb and I was like, I want to be a rapper, you know, like hip hop kind of found me. If that makes sense, you know.
Totally,
and it was like, it took me by the arm and just like guided me through life in many different ways, and like different trials and tribulations. And here I am just taking a bite of everything the whole time. And then I eventually, like, I started like rewriting. I would first write lyrics to songs to try to memorize them. So like R.A. the Rugged Man, I forget what song it was, but he's like, I'm a dip diver, socializer. And I was like, wow, the rhythm in that is so cool. So I like wrote all the words down to try to learn the words. And then I started rapping it. And then I'm like, you know, like you become, I guess, engulfed in something and don't even realize it. And then eventually I just started changing their lyrics to my lyrics. And like, I was already around all these people, like, you know, who were like, you'd be such a great artist and you should do this and you should do that. And it was just like, my head was spinning off my shoulders, because I was like 17-year-old girl in New York City, like living on my own, like the world is mine. What should I do? You know? So yeah. So then at that point, like people were like, oh, you want beats? Oh, you want studio time? Oh, you want this, you know? And it was already like there for me, blessingly. So yeah.
Well, okay. So you already have your career going before you met your husband?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. I wouldn't say like it was, excuse me. It definitely like peaked when we met each other. I feel like we both like kind of like came to like a plateau, because we both like encouraged each other with this healthy competition. But I was heavy, you know, heavy in music already for like almost 10 years once I met him.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. So had put songs out, and were you performing like in the area and everything?
Yeah.
Tell me about Go ahead.
Sorry.
No.
I was just gonna say that was the funny part about it, was like we had both been performers and artists in the area, and when we met, we're like, how do we not know each other? You know?
Oh, okay, sure.
So that was kind of like the awe that brought us together. Like we're like, oh, this is so weird. That's cool. Your music is dope. My music is dope. Like why? And like we went to the same studio and we were affiliated with the same producer. So it was just a matter of time. It was like 6 degrees of separation.
Sure. Wow. That's cool. That's really cool. Well, tell me about those earlier shows. Like, how did you get your first, you know, gigs and get your feet wet kind of performing?
Pretty much just like throwing myself in the fire. I would go to open mics and stuff and like be whack. And
be whack.
Yeah, like get on stage and be like, okay, you know, like let me spit my rhyme and forget my bars and stuff like that. And just really, yeah, just kind of growing up in the music scene, you know, like New York is like filled with music. I don't know if it's still the same now. I don't really go out anymore, but you know, it was like at one point I just remember like, you know, like you could go to one block and there would be multiple different venues, like with every different kind of music. So like, yeah, you'd be like, oh, I'm in the mood for hip hop. And you would go to the hip hop club and then be like, okay, this isn't that great. Like, let me go hear Carl Cox spin at Pasha up the block and like, you know, wow. And then go. So, being involved in that, like I always knew, you know, where there were open mics and stuff and other performers and stuff like that. So the first time I actually got on stage was at End of the Week Performance, EO Dub, it's called. And yeah, I was super nervous. It's a very, very underground, very like cultural oriented hip hop well-known spot in New York. Okay. And now that I think about that, I'm like, wow, I was so audacious. Like my first time on stage was like this iconic, like, venue, you know, staple that's been around for so long. But what else do you do? You know, what else do you do? You do it. You just do it and see how it feels. And I wasn't great at it, but you know, the music thrilled me and the music was always therapeutic for me. So like, especially the type of person that I am, when I'm not good at something, like I'm determined to get better and like, you know, see myself achieve at it. So, you know, many miles away from that, I just kept performing and stuff. And I always had like performers like anxiety. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do, but like, you know, that was a big thing. I used to like avoid performances and just focus on like going to the studio and rapping and mastering my craft. And actually, like when I met Intel was when I really started performing a lot, because he would push me and motivate me. He's like, you're so dope, why aren't you performing? Like, why aren't you like, and I'm like, meh, you know, I'm working on my album and this and that, you know, and I was like very shy about it. But he like, you know, he really like motivated me and pushed me on my feet to perform more. And lo and behold, we started Intellectual Entertainment, and we're a very progressive platform on the island that now hosts and, you know, makes our own shows and performances and gives other artists a platform where if they want to perform, like we'll go out and put the show together for them.
Wow, that's cool.
So yeah, I went from like totally being scared to be on stage to now we're like throwing the shows and performing and hosting.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge. That's awesome. So, well, obviously not this second with COVID, but that was kind of the what you guys started together.
Yeah, he had started it a little bit before he met me, but we pretty much, you know, we worked together from the ground up. He worked very hard to like build his niche and do what he did and build the name for Intellectual Entertainment, but he didn't know exactly what, you know, direction he was going in with it, and neither did I really. But we just started, you know, we started utilizing it as performers, and everything we did, we would use Intellectual Entertainment with the name attached. And then we both became like this powerhouse because we're both like go-getters and hard workers. And we created a force that we're like, okay, well, we wish this, and, you know, we wish the show was like this, or like we want to perform in a, you know, we want to have like a really dope showcase on Staten Island or something. Why doesn't somebody do that? And we, you know, we'll sit down and we'll talk about all these ideas. And, you know, eventually we were like, oh, we can facilitate that through Intellectual Entertainment. Why don't we just do it ourselves? And as we, you know, as we began to like work harder and put the pieces together and stuff, like it's funny because the universe works in crazy ways, and you know, God is always like putting pieces like out in front of you for you to pick up and put together.
Sure.
As we're working, we start, you know, becoming close with a venue owner, and, you know, and people see how hard we're working, and then eventually people started coming to us.
Wow.
You know, like, hey, well, you know, I want to have a show at my venue. Do you think you guys can make the bill and get the, you know, and promo for me and stuff like that? So, sure. And the community on the island, like the dope thing about like us being kind of like our own and like people not really leaving is like the artist community is so supportive of one another. Like
That's great.
so supportive. Like that's another thing I'm so blessed. That's probably why God always brings me back to Staten Island. Because had it not be for my support system, you know, like my little artist family out here and stuff, like the people I work with, the people I've grown to be inspired by, like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, you know, because they're just as motivating as we are, and they're doing the same thing. Like we have all these little groups and non-for-profit organizations out here that really work really hard. Shout out to Projectivity, which is like an organization that pretty much does everything, but they help the youth out here.
Oh,
and,
awesome.
Those are some of the people who helped me come up, and you know, their studio, House of Dreams, was like the studio where, you know, I really came out of, and produced my first debut album, Take Flight, which is going to be dropping in January. And bringing it back, it's just everyone works extremely hard out here. So it's motivating and it's healthy competition. And then when they see you working, they want to get involved with you, you know? So it's kind of like the law of attraction.
Yeah, that's great. Well, okay, so tell me about meeting Intel and how you guys got together. And
got you. So as you know, we're both from Staten Island.
Yes.
I was asked to guest bartend at an Afropunk festival show. It was like an after party that Jizza was performing at.
Okay.
One of my friends was hosting and promoting the event and was like, I need bartenders. Will you come and work in Brooklyn for me that night or whatever? It was just a very random proposal. And I was like, yeah, sure. Make some money, get to see Jizza, cool show, everything. Why not? And I'm there and I see, you know, this like random, and I say random because he had like bleached orange hair, like faux hawk, like he looked totally different than he looks now, of course, like we all go through our phases. But I just noticed him when he walked in the door, and he was just docile, but so like magnetic to me.
Sure.
And he had something special about him. And I noticed him as soon as he walked in, he was shining. And he had come over to the bar at one point and like asked for a water. And I tried kind of talking to him and he didn't get it. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever, you know, like regular night, you meet a bunch of people, you're bartending. And then all of a sudden later in the night, I couldn't see the stage, but I could hear the performance, obviously. And I hear like, you know, this amazing, like, you know, just really, really good music and sick rapper. And I'm like, who is this? And they had more of like a younger voice. And I was surprised because, you know, the music out now, like I was assuming to match to his voice, you know, something trappy or something, you know, something along those lines. And you know, it just hit me by surprise. So I had to go look and see who it is. And it's the kid with the bleached orange hair. So he walks off stage and I kick it to him and I'm like, where are you from? You know, like, what's your name? What are you about? Can I get your info? Because you're dope. And he's like, I'm from Staten Island. And lo and behold, I'm like, oh, so am I. We live up the block from each other.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah. So from there, as I was saying before, then we just found out like we were very connected. We were in the same circle. We had been working like, you know, around the same people for like many years. And somehow we just never, I'm sure we've seen each other before, like at the deli or something. Or, you know, whatever.
Cross paths at some point.
Yeah, but we never kicked it. We never connected. And until that night in Brooklyn, on a random night when I probably wouldn't have been there at any other moment.
Sure.
And and then from there we just started chilling. And pretty much from there, like we kind of like linked up and we pretty much like connected right away. But you know, it all started with the music because we then were like, oh, let's hit the studio, let's make some music. And the first song we worked on together was this song called Poetry and Rhythm off my album Take Flight. And it was amazing, like the energy in the studio, like everything. Like I will never forget that moment, that moment of like I just feel like that's what you look for when you make music. Like you can make 100 songs, but there's always like, and it always feels good, or you always feel something, you know. But like, you know, maybe like 1 or 3 out of 100, you get like this very special, like euphoric, like, oh my God, that felt so great. And everybody in the studio feels it. Like the producer felt it, like everyone in there felt it, like, you know, and we just killed our verses. And then like after that, like it was kind of like I was like captivated. I was like, oh my God. Wow. And I started listening to the song, and you know, I was already very intrigued by him, and already you know, there was already something special. And yeah, I think from the moment I met him, you know, I don't mean to like throw it on so thick, but from the moment I saw him, I was just like, wow, he's special. And
sure,
you know, so
wow, that's amazing. What a crazy coincidence that you guys have lived up the street from each other and both from the same area and everything. That's funny because my wife and I have a similar story where we both went to the same high school and grew up in the same area, went to the same college, and we never met each other until after all of that either.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, like we didn't even know of each other, but we had like mutual friends and everything too. It's just so crazy how the world works.
I know.
Yeah.
And you feel that like when you meet someone and you're just like, wow, like I felt like I had been around him for so long.
Right.
But I'm like, how do I not know you? You know?
Yeah.
And you kept saying the same thing about me.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you and your wife felt that.
It's weird.
You know, it's just, it's funny. You like, God is like, let me give you this whole experience first and then show you what you missed out on.
Right.
Like,
I love that. That's so funny. That's cool. And I'm sure you're a Wu-Tang fan growing up and everything.
Definitely so. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like inherited when you
when
like,
you live in Staten Island.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, rightfully so too. You know, it's definitely like an emblem because, you know, they're legends and have paved the way, you know, pretty much for everybody.
Yeah.
And still to this day, like coins, like you see it everywhere, you know. It's just it amazes me how like that Wu-Tang symbol, like you can go anywhere in the world and people know what that is. Children, adults, everyone. They might not like it. Not everybody is like, you know, maybe the older people are like, oh, that Wu-Tang or whatever, you know, but they know.
They know what it is.
Like, you know. Yeah, anywhere in the world. So that's insane. You know, that's a level that I dream about getting to one day in my life.
Sure. That'd be, I know. I was telling Intel when I talked to him that I actually saw the final Wu-Tang show, or the last Wu-Tang show that had everybody in it, like with Old Dirty Bastard and everybody together. And it was,
wow.
Yeah, they played here in Southern California, and they played this warehouse for this Rock the Bells festival. And they played like in San Bernardino at this warehouse, and everybody, and like, the whole Wu-Tang Clan was there. It was insane.
That is so dope.
Yeah, and then it was like months later is when ODB passed away. So it was pretty crazy to be able to see, you know, the whole, and then since then I've seen them, I don't know, 4 times or something like that, but it's obviously not the same, you know, it wasn't everybody together anymore, but it was still dope because it's Wu-Tang. But to see see them like with everybody, it was nuts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And that what a moment that you got to like be a part of that.
I know.
You know what I mean?
It's something what you and you know, years later, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to see that. Like it, you know, I knew it was a big deal seeing, because it was just like, I got to see Wu-Tang and this is a big deal, but like it made it a bigger deal once, you know, everything started happening down the line. But
that's sick.
It was cool. Yeah, Redman even opened up. So he came back out and did like him and Method Man did a bunch of stuff from Blackout. It was dope.
Yeah, you really got like the full ambiance. Like
it was great.
And like the whole package. That's dope.
Sick. Yeah.
That's very dope. I don't even think I've been to like maybe like probably I've been to a handful of Wu shows, and I've definitely seen most of them individually, but I can't even think off the top where they were all present.
Right.
You know? Like I literally, like, anytime they were performing out here, I was like, oh, Wu show, I'm going, you know?
Right.
And even like a couple days before ODB passed, they played at not Madison Square Garden, the Meadowlands in Jersey. And they were all supposed to be there, and ODB was the one who didn't show up, and they were pissed. Like, they were talking about it on stage, and then he passed like a couple days later.
Oh my gosh.
So I had the opposite story.
Yeah, you got to see him when he didn't want to show, or he didn't make it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, rest in peace, ODB, man.
I know. That's crazy.
But that's amazing. Yeah, like literally it's crazy. And you know, it's so awesome how music can channel so much, you know, like you got a piece of that energy. Like
it was crazy. Yeah.
That is like, no matter what, like everyone in that show has a piece of ODB with them. You know?
It's crazy too, because it was like a festival, so to speak, where there was like 20 artists maybe on it, 15 or 20 artists. And I don't know if you know ID and Abilities, they were on it too.
Okay.
But Idea
Sounds
was
familiar,
he was the main
sure.
he was the main MC, and he ended up dying too, which is really weird. So like it was two people from that same show that passed away within, you know, a year or so of it happening, which is bizarre.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah.
But weird. But anyway, back to your music. Okay, so you have a new record, or your album Take Flight. I read that it's a re-release. So you've already put the record out, and you pulled it and then you're re-releasing it?
Yes. I actually that was the album my debut album that I had worked on. I worked on it for a while over the course of time. And I had planned to release it right before I got pregnant with my son, who's a year and 8 months now.
Okay.
And then I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, I'm gonna get this album out, you know, no matter what. And I wound up dropping it actually the same day I had him. So and I planned for that. I was like, you know what? This is like my baby. He's my baby. These are my babies. They're going to be birthed together.
That's cool.
And I put it out, and it felt amazing. And, you know, it was a great launch and everything, but I hadn't put so much thought and stuff. I got a little sidetracked with the pregnancy, and we also went on tour that summer. So that was my first time I got invited overseas.
Wow.
So there was a lot going on, and dropping the album.
Oh my goodness.
and I didn't put much thought or planning into marketing, you know, so it's a little bit poor management on myself. So I let it rock, you know, but I had planned, I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this the right way. When I have time, you know, I'll leave it up. And when I have time and the funds, I'm going to take it down and then relaunch it, you know, properly, and give it the proper shine and the proper love that it deserves. Because me and the House of Dreams and Jay Glaze, shout out to my producer, like we worked OD hard on that album, and like everything was crafted authentically from the ground up. Like I would go in the studio, we wouldn't have a beat, nothing. Like we went beat for beat on that, and like, you know, writing was done in the studio, and songs took multiple sessions and everything. And that's the first time I really did that, you know. I'm always like, I prefer to be prepared in the studio, especially because financially that should be I don't know, can I curse?
Yeah.
that should be hitting you. So, you know, I try to be pretty organized and prepared when I go. So, you know, I'm banging out, you know, 2 songs, at least a song when I'm there, and I'm ready to go. So this time, you know, I put the fact of the money aside in my brain and just literally like engulf myself in creation. I was like, all I care about is creating and feeling good. And like, I'll just keep going until we feel like it's finished. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And
so now, you know, now I took it down. I have time. Ironically enough, I'm pregnant again with my second child.
Wow, congratulations.
So God is just like, listen, this is life. Learn how to balance it.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm re-releasing early 2021. So I'm releasing like a few singles that I feel like deserve and need to get shine. And the first one of which I just put out is a joint, Workin, featuring Nitty Scott. Shout out to her. She's one of my favorite MCs out of New York. And so I just released that as a single. I'm going to release a couple more singles, which I'll talk about when the time is ready.
Sure.
And early 2021, we setting it off. Take flight.
Wow, very exciting. So Workin is still a song from the record that was up, and then it got taken down.
Yes, I took the whole album down.
The whole album down.
Yeah, everything is down, and I'm gonna release
slowly,
single by single. Yeah, and then eventually I'll hit you with the hardcore.
I love it. I love it. Well, dude, that's awesome. Have you been doing any of the live performances on Instagram or anything like that, or those live streams?
Yeah, not recently. When quarantine first happened, like a lot of my friends were hitting me up. I have a radio station out here that we're affiliated with called Maker Park Radio.
Oh, cool.
And one of our friends, Dave Noodles, who is also affiliated with Projectivity, which I spoke about before. They're the non-for-profit organization that helps with the kids out here. He had asked both Intel and I to do a live, what were they calling it? Quarantine, I forget, but live performance. So we did one of those. And then I have a homegirl, Danny Ray, who runs a podcast called La Cochina out of New Jersey. I did a live performance for her. I was getting it in the beginning. Like everyone was hitting me up, and I was like, oh, cool. It was like almost like I had like performances like, once a week for a little while. And then they kind of like slowed down and stuff. So not recently, but yeah, we've been doing it. We've been making it happen. And then once like the city started opening back up, we did like a little rooftop performance at the venue that Intel actually works out of. They have a studio downstairs called Dock Street Records. So they threw like a little, opening up like party where we just performed on the roof so the people who were walking by could see us and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's nice to hear that things are starting to kind of open up and people are able to play like kind of, or like, in situations like that, like you're on a roof, or like, the drive-in concerts or the stuff like that. It's hopefully sooner than later, everything will be opened up again.
Yeah. But it's cool. I feel like it's like forcing everyone to like go back to their like creative realms and like elements and like figure it out, like how are we gonna make this work? Like whatever you're used to, put it aside and like reinvent yourself, and it's like forcing, it's like you're hearing it even in the music that's coming out right now, like everyone, I mean, on top of the passion that's involved in everything that's going on, and everyone's already putting out great music and really starting to write again, but also like that creative push that's like making us like taking us out of our routine and making us like figure out something new. Right. Yeah. I think is having a big impact on the art too.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, because now it almost like leveled the playing field, quote unquote, like, to everybody's trying to figure out how to get their stuff out and how to perform, and live streaming was the thing for a minute, but who knows what the next somebody will figure out something a little bit cooler than that, and then that'll be the new, you know what I mean, how it works.
It'll be like private concerts, like that's what's gonna happen, but they'll be live streamed. You could buy like 10 tickets, so it's like VIP access only. The show is for you, and everybody else can pay to watch online or something,
Oh,
like,
right, yeah, that'd be good, yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
Like the top people or people with a lot of money could be like, I want to have
VIP.
Yeah, you guys play at my living room, and there'll be 12 of us, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Prema, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really, really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed the conversation. I love your energy. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I have one more question I want to ask you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Be yourself and don't give up. it's cliche, but like if you just look at yourself in the mirror and say those things every day, no matter how shitty you feel, because being an artist, you definitely feel shitty. So get prepared for that. Okay. Like there are a lot of ups, but like you have to be prepared to be able to feel what you feel. And if you can just look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm being myself, I'm doing this for me. And, you know, like, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks, you're going to be okay. You know, just stick to you. That's it. Stick to you and what feels good to you.
Bringing it back.